Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, December 5th, 2020, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, we do try to cut down on the language here, but we may show some things that might have a disturbing or graphic nature. So viewer discretion is advised. Also, guys, let me also say, apologize in advance. Really been dealing with flu symptoms. I think I had the flu or a really bad cold, but so rather the other podcasts haven't been done. We're gonna try it today. I feel actually way better than I did on Monday. So the only thing I really got left is just a nagging cough. So if I mute myself or if I seem like I'm about to stop, it's only because I don't want to cough in you guys' faces. But I promise you guys I'm getting better. It's just the last part about being sick is just that cough. It's just that cough does not go away. And if it goes away, it goes away like Hans Gruber from Die Hard. He doesn't go away until the very end when he has nothing left but to fall off the Nakamura Tower. And that's how you know it's Christmas. But anyway, guys, for all you guys are watching, welcome. Let's get into it because it hasn't been a very rosy week in the news.
Breaking news, that frightening new warning from the head of the CDC, as many as 450,000 Americans could die from the coronavirus by February in what he calls the most difficult 3 months in the history of public health. Now, that prediction comes from Dr. Robert Redfield, and it comes less than 2 weeks before Operation Warp Speed says the U.S. should start distributing its first vaccines. Great Britain is moving even faster than that after the government there approved Pfizer's vaccine today, launching a plan to start giving shots within days. Well, tonight, the commissioner of the FDA tells CBS News it will take longer for the U.S. to approve the vaccine to assure Americans that it is safe. Still, experts say even when vaccinations begin, the damage from all that Thanksgiving travel may already be done. And as we come on the air, the rate of new infections nationwide continues to grow. Hospitalizations from the virus have hit an all-time high, too. So in an effort to stop further spread tonight, the CDC is once again asking Americans not to travel to celebrate the upcoming holidays. And it's lowering its recommendation for how long Americans should quarantine if exposed to someone with the virus. So listen up. It's lowering the length of isolation from 14 days now down to as few as 7. So we've got a lot of new reporting for you tonight and your family, and our team of correspondents is standing by to cover it all. CBS's Adriana Diaz is going to lead off our coverage tonight from outside Chicago. Good evening, Adriana.
Good evening, Dora. We are at the precipice of 100,000 hospitalizations. That's nearly double what we saw in the first peak of the pandemic in the spring. And this is one of the reasons why the White House Coronavirus Task Force says the country is in a dangerous place.
Hospitals are being hit by a tidal wave of new coronavirus cases, with predictions of it getting worse.
December and January and February are going to be rough times.
Daily coronavirus cases have continued to spike, with more than 180,000 a day. That's doubled in the last month, and the numbers are expected to rise now that it's been a week since Thanksgiving.
And I think everyone's overwhelmed at this point.
So this sudden rise that you're seeing is very concerning.
No, we're not flattening the curve at this point.
In hard-hit Tennessee, Notary Public Adrian Bowling has seen a surge in people desperate to get their affairs in order, people in ICUs.
What is it like in the room when you're asking people in their hospital beds what their wishes are, what they want for their will?
It is a very sobering time. You can tell from the look in their eyes. It's almost as if it's becoming real that, am I not going home? Is this going to be my final resting place?
In California, average new cases and deaths have jumped more than 50% in just 2 weeks. In North Dakota and Rhode Island, 90% of ICUs are filled. Tonight, Stephen Hahn, the head of the FDA, is responding to whether the agency is under pressure to approve a vaccine after being summoned to the White House this week. This is what he told CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. John LaPook.
Was there a pressure being applied?
This meeting was about understanding the process. What can you do to expedite the process? And we're always looking for ways to do that.
We're also learning how many vaccines states could receive as early as December 15th. California is expected to get more than 300,000 doses, New York 170,000, and Montana 10,000. Allocations are based on population. But it's too late for so many. Like Guadalupe Lopez, a Chicago police dispatcher who received this tribute. The crying you hear are his children.
My dad devoted 33 years of helping officers go home to their families.
Their mother, Maria, has no idea her husband was given full honors after his death because she's in the ICU battling COVID.
Hopefully mom comes home and we'll be waiting for her with open arms. You know, that's all we want for Christmas is our mom to come home.
Their mother is still fighting in the ICU. She's on a ventilator, but she's stable in the hospital behind me. Meanwhile, the CDC is telling Americans once again not to travel over the holidays because of potential spread. They're still waiting to see what the impact will be from Thanksgiving gatherings. Nora?
Now, again, the interesting thing about part of all this is that the CDC has already said multiple times, don't travel. It's that simple. It's literally and figuratively the most easiest thing we could have done. They said it before Thanksgiving. They said it before the holidays. Don't travel. It's not safe. You could be part of super spreader events, which a lot of people still did travel, and I get it. The year 2020 has probably been one of the longest self-isolation years we could say we've had as a country. However, I understand the need that you want to be around family. I understand the need that you want to be with your loved ones. But at this time, like I said before, 100,000 hospitalizations in the U.S. We're over now 276,000 deaths. It ain't worth it. I mean, there's just no way around it. I mean, it's amazing that we still haven't. I mean, it's amazing that Joe Biden still hasn't turned. I mean, not Biden, because he's not president yet. He just got certified by the Electoral College. But you would think Dorito in his last 48 days left that he would do something smart and actually lock down the country. He would sit there and say there would be no travel. I mean, I think you would think he would actually do something positive, but then again, it's Dorito. But it's amazing that, like I said before, with the vaccine coming out, there are some questions about the vaccine. I was the one that sat there and said it, mini podcast, where I talked about the vaccine and not seeing that, that these three major companies, two of them that were part of Operation Warp Speed, Pfizer was not, that are pushing forward with their vaccines pending FDA approval. And let's also be honest, there are a lot of people that sit there and look at that and go, I don't know. I mean, truly, a lot of them will sit there and go, I don't know. So what they've done to combat this is that they went to America's three favorite presidents and asked them to do this.
Step in the effort to stop the spread of coronavirus. And next week, the FDA is going to meet and discuss approving the first vaccine candidate for use in the United States. But even when vaccines are available to the general public sometime next year, there are still questions about how many people will line up to get the shots. Now, three former presidents are teaming up to help this effort. Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama say that they're willing to get vaccinated on camera if it helps promote public confidence in vaccine safety.
if Anthony Fauci tells me this vaccine is safe and can vaccinate, immunize you from getting COVID, absolutely, I'm going to take it. I may end up taking it on TV or having it filmed just so that people know that I trust this science.
Okay.
And what I don't trust is getting COVID.
Well, hey, if you're gonna get 3 presidents to sign on for this, it'll make for an interesting show. But yes, it's like you have President Clinton, former President Bush Jr., and then you have, of course, President Barack Obama, that are wanting to go online, I won't say online, on live television and take the vaccines to basically assure public safety. I'm a guy of science. I do believe that without science, science actually has its own records, things of that nature. This would be the first time in history where a vaccine for a virus or disease was actually created in the same year of the pandemic. Now, I know I've said it before that most vaccines and cures for said viruses and diseases usually take up to 2 to 4 years after the outbreak, and then after that, it takes another 5 years to actually see the 5 years or so to actually see the effects from that. So it's really interesting now that, like I said before, with Anthony Fauci both saying that he approves it, and that right now you have 3 possible vaccines out there. It is going to take a lot, and it's only because, and I hate to say it, that Trump has done a good job of validating misinformation, and even more so that he's basically polluted the water. So it's going to be a little difficult to basically convince others about this, simply put, because they've been, when you've been fed misinformation for almost 4 years, it's a little hard to sit there and say, hey, this actually is going to be good for you. And of course, they'll sit there and say, well, no, it won't, because you guys rushed this and things of that nature. And that's the problem. And I think that's kind of the problem with society, is just that how in the world are we still not to the point to where we trust science? We say, Derek, first rule of thumb, never be the first to use something that has never been used. You're not wrong. Really, you're not wrong. And at the same time, again, I can understand everybody else's side of it. I can, because it's like, well, what happens? And we've seen all the mini memes, and we've seen all the, other funny things about, getting the coronavirus like Homer Simpson afterwards. Getting the vaccine like Homer Simpson afterwards. But again, it gets to a point to where we need to start looking at the data. If the data becomes available to us and we can look at it and we can study it and sit there and say, okay, this might have a good track record, because that's what basically science is. That's how the polio vaccine came along. That's how the measles and mumps shots came along. How scoliosis and things of that nature. Not scoliosis. I'm sorry. Shingles. Well, I would say shingles if you did not get the chickenpox virus vaccine shot. But there's still a history of other ones. So again, this is why I'm sitting there saying I'm not against it, but as long as they're actually presenting the data that actually can back up what's going on, then it's an honestly shot. Because aside from these people not paying attention to not to travel, not to have big ass parties, not to actually do all this stuff, this seems to be another way of treating people, because right now the current president we have is not going to shut down the country, especially when it's so obvious to do that. So, but we will follow it as it becomes released, because like I said, it is going to California and New York first. But as you can see, it is definitely needed everywhere. So, moving right along, guys. Another story, like I said,
welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got.
That was not what I wanted to do. I apologize. Let's try that again. So the other story I wanted to show, guys, was that, of course, the case of Breonna Taylor, which I still say was a sad part, which really was one of the greatest injustices out there since Emmett Till, in my opinion, because the family has went to the Kentucky Prosecutor's Advisory Council and asked for a special prosecutor to be put in place instead of Daniel Cameron, who decided that the officers had no wrongdoing. Of course, the Kentucky Prosecutors Advisory Board sat there and said that they will decline assigning a special prosecutor, basically siding with Daniel Cameron. Of course, it amazes me so, because if you think about the fact of this story and how I actually talked about this a few weeks ago, where again you saw 3 people, now 4, from the grand jury that was over the indictment, were all angry because, number one, the prosecutor did not give all information. He did not show all the evidence, and he did not present the cases of murder to where the jury can consider them. Remember, I said a while back, a prosecutor can decide whether to indict or not indict somebody. They pick the jury, they pick the evidence, they can pick and choose what they choose not to show, and therefore get whatever verdict or non-verdict that they want. But it amazes me so that in Kentucky, when you had 3 officers break into a woman's house and kill a woman in her sleep, that they're still allowed to keep their jobs. Again, I'm not surprised by this, but the family is still fighting to actually get the case reopened and looked at, hopefully through the FBI. But at this point, I don't expect the state of Kentucky to do anything except what they always do. Try to outdo Tennessee, really. Aside from that, guys, the other story of Ahmaud Arbery, the judge actually denies the bond to the father and son that actually shot Ahmaud Arbery, saying they pose significant danger to the community. No shit. I mean, for anybody that doesn't remember the case of Ahmaud Arbery, he was the young man that was basically followed, profiled, and was actually shot when 2 people supposedly tried to do a citizen's arrest. And during the struggle, the father actually shoots the son, and then the father actually shoots Ahmaud Arbery along with the son, killing Ahmaud Arbery on the spot. They're trying to sit there and say that Ahmaud Arbery was probably a possible suspect because of construction areas in the area. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's the fact that the judge actually had the right call. That the video actually showed the links the defendants would track down and restrain another person. So yes, they were a danger to the community, and I'm glad their bail is denied. I hope to God they, I would say that, for the case of murder 1 to both of them, along with the person that recorded it, because he was right there and it all seemed planned from Jump Street. So along with that, that's just crazy that that some people don't think that they didn't do anything wrong. That will never cease to amaze me about that. Especially the simple fact of the matter, when you have it on live video that we saw a black man getting killed. Unfortunately, another black man that got killed was this one I did not know about. I was looking back to this, I'm like, I must have missed this somewhere. Where the killing of a black man in Ashland, Oregon, was basically because this man, A.D. Nelson, was killed because the person sat there and said that his music was too loud. So apparently during the confrontation, Robert Keegan, the person who shot him, sat there and said that after complaining about the music he went to the person. They said he had a scuffle, and he shot and killed Ellison. Now he sat there and says that Keegan sat there and said that Ellison punched him in the face and that he fired him in self-defense. He punched him in the face and he fired in self-defense. That should be an open and shut case right there. So you're telling me that you supposedly got assaulted, and that allowed you just to pull the heat and shoot somebody? Yeah, that should just go ahead and wrap that up as murder 1. But again, the police officer reported that Keegan had no visible injuries to his face, and an autopsy showed that no injuries to Ellison's hands would have indicated that he hit Keegan. So again, this should be an open and shut case. But we will follow that as it goes along, as they are just now getting to the point of bringing that to trial. But another thing that actually happened, especially here in Nashville, which again was very sad, not only because it was a loss of life, it was because this person was actually an ICU worker.
Index of other news tonight, authorities are investigating a deadly highway shooting in Nashville. A young ICU nurse was shot and killed on Interstate 440 on her way to work. Investigators believe someone fired into the vehicle. They are asking for the public's help tonight.
Yep. There we go. I really want to know that, that actually did happen. And it's sad because, of course, road rage is nothing to laugh about. But again, how mad do you got to be at someone to where you literally want to fire at them and on the road? even more so that you killed somebody who was an ICU nurse. So again, I like the violence. Like I said before, some people just do not need to have guns, and some people actually obviously don't need to be driving. But again, like I said before, hopefully that woman will get justice. Hopefully, they do find the person that killed her. But it's sad though, because I mean, it's the simple fact of the matter is nobody deserves to die on the interstate. Nobody deserves to get shot while going to their job. I don't care how bad you want to get past somebody or they cut you off or things of that nature. Sure, I wanted to cuss some people out on the road, but I never wanted to end their life. I wanted them to get caught by police and get a ticket, maybe, but beyond that, no. So that's why I said I find it interesting that, hopefully that woman's family will get justice for that. But speaking of things I never thought I would see, and probably still won't, the White House did pass a bill decriminalizing marijuana at the federal level. They actually did that this Friday, where they sat there and said to address the devastating injustices caused by the war on drugs. Yes, because the war on drugs was bullshit. But anyway, it was a Democratic-led House, which they did go ahead and vote 222 to 158, which I still find it funny that all the Republicans voted against it and 6 Democrats voted against it. But almost all of the Democrats did actually go ahead and do it. But again, I don't expect this to actually get past the Senate because, like I said before, Mitch McConnell is still there. That's the problem. And this is why I sit there and say the most powerful president, I said the most powerful seat in the House is not the White House. I hate to say it. The most powerful seat in the House to actually get bills through is the Senate Majority Leader. Because if you want to know something, here's the big miss in checks and balances. Because for all those, and like I said, this might be a civics lesson for some people, that's fine. You have the legislative branch and the executive branch. The legislative branch is actually one that passed the laws, which means that the House of Representatives can write a bill, they can approve it, it goes to the Senate, then approves it, and then from the Senate, it goes to the president's office. He can either veto it or sign on it. But if he vetoes it, it goes back to the House again to vote, and then goes to the Senate again to vote. And if both pass the votes again, then regardless of what the president wants, he still has to sign it because he's been overruled. In the same way that the Senate could actually go ahead and introduce a bill and don't really need the House of Representatives, the Senate could actually, the Senate doesn't actually, this is the messed up part. You want to know this part? This is the messed up part. That the Senate is basically the turnstile in the entire legislative system. Think about this for a second. Mitch McConnell actually had over 3,000 bills fell dead at his desk because he did not introduce them to the floor. That's his ability as Senate Majority Leader. He introduces bills to the floor. If he does not introduce a bill to the floor, that's why they always say the bill is DOA. So again, we shouldn't be surprised at this moment that the reason why Georgia, which is still having a Senate runoff for its two senator places, this is the reason why that's important, because Mitch McConnell has shown that he has no problem railroading the United States. His state obviously does not know what's best for them, because they will literally and figuratively keep voting him in for reasons beyond my comprehension. But again, this man has blocked everything that did not benefit Republicans. So this is why now with the House bill passing, decriminalizing marijuana, which honestly should have done it years ago, because again, marijuana is not a drug in my opinion. However, it could be, like I said before about marijuana or even the cannabis plant itself, not only is a cash crop, but also at the same time has many, many different mechanical and topical applications, as well as in the medical field where it can help so many people. It's that simple. However, as long as McConnell is the Senate Majority Leader, and we hope he's not this year, but it's going to depend on Georgia, because right now we need Georgia to come through with the quickness. That's about the best way I could put that. But we're right along, guys, as we get to the new president-elect, although he has just been ratified to be the president by the Electoral College a few days ago. Of course, Joe Biden does ask Americans to mask up for the next 100 days.
Get vaccinated before Inauguration Day, and will you do it in public the way that Presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton have suggested they're willing to?
I'd be happy to do that. When Dr. Fauci says we have a vaccine that is safe, that's the moment in which I will stand before the public and see that, look, part of what has to happen, Jake, and you know as well as I do, people have lost faith in the ability of the vaccine to work. Already the numbers are really staggeringly low. And it matters what a president and a vice president do. And so I think that my three predecessors have set the model as to what should be done, saying once it's declared to be safe, and then I think Barack said once Fauci says it's clear, that's my measure, then obviously we take it. And it's important to communicate to the American people, it's safe. It's safe to do this.
Speaking of Fauci, have you spoken with him yet? If so, have you asked him to stay on?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Tell me about the conversation.
Well,
Has he said what more needs to be done from his point of view?
Well, look, my chief of staff has worked with him in the last crisis. He's been talking to him all the time, Ron Klain. And I talked to him today. We spoke today at 3 o'clock. My COVID team met with him. I asked him to stay on in the exact same role he's had for the past several presidents. And I asked him to be a chief medical advisor for me as well and be part of the COVID team. And so what has to be done is we have to make it clear to the American people that the vaccine is safe when it occurred, when that is determined. And number two, you have to make sure, as he points out, you don't have to close down the economy like a lot of folks are talking about now. If, in fact, you have clear guidance and you're able to say to businesses, okay, for example, bars and restaurants are going to close, but we're going to provide you the wherewithal to not lose your business like the House had passed. And we're going to be able to reopen. We're going to be able to reopen in time and not to close down for long periods of time. We talked about masking. It is important that we, in fact, the president and the vice president, we set the pattern by wearing masks. But beyond that, where the federal government has authority, I'm going to issue a standing order that in federal buildings you have to be masked, and in transportation, interstate transportation, you must be masked in airplanes and buses, et cetera. And so it's a matter of, and I think my inclination, Jake, is on the first day I'm inaugurated to say I'm going to ask the public for 100 days to mask. Just 100 days to mask. Not forever, 100 days. And I think we'll see a significant reduction if we occur that occurs with vaccinations and masking to drive down the numbers considerably.
Now think about that for a second, y'all. He wants to ask America to mask up for 100 days, which again is not a bad idea. I mean, it does kind of take it back from the fact of, he did say he wasn't against doing a mask mandate. He wasn't against shutting down the country. I still think that those options should still be on the table. It's just that, again, 100 days because he has a lot of people. Well, let's be honest. There's a lot of people out there that are just special. That's about the best way I could put that. They don't believe in wearing masks. They don't believe that, this doesn't affect me or things of that nature, or, they could be COVID positive and still sit there and be like, I want my rights. My rights are being violated. No, because your right to not wear a mask is kind of fucking with everybody else. So it's not your right. But I do find it interesting that Biden sat there and said, well, I would definitely take the vaccine as long as Dr. Fauci, which again, I like Dr. Fauci. He's actually been, for all intents and purposes, he is our voice when it comes to infectious diseases. And he did say a lot of things that actually should have been implemented from Jump Street that Dorito didn't do. So I like the fact that he's trying to sit there and get people to ease into the idea of wearing masks. Because let's be honest, as I talked about earlier today, after 276,000 deaths, let's try it the other way. It makes sense. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out about what Joe Biden said, which again, I thought this was interesting. In another interview, he sat there and said that he will not immediately lift the tariffs placed by President Donald Trump on many imports from China or break Trump's initial trade deal. Biden says he wants to maximize his leverage in future talks with the United States geopolitical rival. I have a problem with this. Biden also sat there and said, I'm not going to make any immediate moves, and the same applies to the tariffs. I am not going to prejudice my options. Okay, so let's be honest here. Let's really be honest here. First and foremost, The deal that Trump has with China is literally and figuratively messed up. I mean, he tried to juice China. And here's again, 90% of imports into the U.S. come from China. Almost everything that is made, from clothing to technology to electronics to shoes to almost everything, again, manufactured in China, imported in the U.S. And the U.S. still believes, and I said this is the part that never ceases to amaze me, we still owe China. We're still in debt to China for the Afghan-Iraq wars. They own most of our debt. And at the same time, you're going to sit there and say, well, I think we can get a better trade deal with China. No, you can't. Not when they got us by the balls. And even more so, Trump's trade deal, because he called himself a tariff man, because he did not actually understand how tariffs worked, actually made it worse. As he put tariff on China goods, China turned around and slapped tariffs on us, which increased prices across everything. So again, I don't understand Biden when he sits there and says, well, I'm not going to undo Trump's trade deal. Yes, you should. Out of anything, because you're going to be spending the next first 3 years at least of your presidency undoing everything Dorito has done. I mean, this alone should be a no-brainer as far as things that need to be taken down. And this is definitely a given. Even more so that, speaking of Dorito, by the way, let me get to that part. So, speaking of Dorito, of course, he's basically been back in the news because, like I said, Dorito has less than 45 days. I don't say 45 days. I want to say either 48 or 47, one of the two. But he's getting down to the nitty gritty. But as he's getting down, he's basically been hit with the P word. I am talking about pardons, because almost everybody has been going to the president that's been a part of his administration and sitting there saying, can I get a pardon? And Trump right now is trying to be the Oprah Winfrey of pardons. You get a pardon. You get a pardon. Everybody avoids jail. Which they're not going to avoid jail. It's kind of interesting now because, as we remember before, Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, two people who were convicted by the FBI, one of lying as well as being compromised to foreign governments, were pardoned by Trump. Again, this is what makes sense because, let's be honest, with Jared Kushner, with Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, and all his family, he's not above. I mean, you have to be honest with you. He's not above actually pardoning them because, let's be honest, when that man leaves office, he's going to have a wonderful time in court because he's going to be spending a lot of time in court considering that everybody and their mama is going to come after him. So I wouldn't be surprised if the president does pull a 45. 45. He does pull a 45 and just starts pardoning everybody. Now keep in mind, presidential pardons only cover federal crimes. They do not cover state crimes. Hence why the New York attorney is like, you can pardon whoever you want to. Pardons are not going to save you. In the sense that no, a president cannot pardon themselves. They have to be pardoned by another president. For example, Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, even though Richard Nixon was guilty of sin after Watergate, but he still pardoned him. That is the only way a president can be pardoned. A president cannot pardon himself. That's a dictator move. But again, speaking of dictator moves, apparently not all is well in the Trump and Barr situation, as Barr did something that, well, I'm surprised.
7 weeks left in office, President Trump may be on the verge of firing his Attorney General Bill Barr after he undercut his claims the election was rigged.
Well, he hasn't done anything, so he hasn't looked. When he looks, he'll see the kind of evidence that right now you're seeing in the Georgia Senate.
Trump criticized Barr in front of cameras in the Oval Office today, where sources said the two had a contentious meeting this week after Barr told the Associated Press the Justice Department had uncovered no evidence of fraud that would change the election.
This is probably the most fraudulent election that anyone's ever seen.
Asked if he had confidence in Barr, Trump paused.
Do you still have confidence in Bill Barr?
Ask me that in a number of weeks from now.
Trump is also furious at Barr because no one has been charged in the investigation into the beginning of the Russia probe. But whether he'll fire the attorney general remains to be seen, and GOP lawmakers are avoiding the subject.
I'm sorry, when did the attorney general say that?
He did an interview with the AP where he said that.
I haven't seen the interview, sorry.
Despite being rebuffed by almost everyone, Trump has refused to drop his claims the election was fraudulent, while his legal team is sowing chaos on his behalf.
My team is doing an unbelievable job.
Mr. Giuliani, what are you doing here in Georgia?
You'll see.
Even Trump's Republican allies are asking for evidence.
To the Trump legal team, you're making all these claims, you got to prove it. Doing a video is not proof. You need to take these claims into a court of law and get relief.
Instead of succeeding in court, pro-Trump attorneys appear to be focused on winning in the court of public opinion.
I want you to go to the governor's mansion. I want you to circle it. I want you to blow your horns until Brian Kemp comes out and orders a special session of the Georgia legislature.
Republican state officials say comments like that from pro-Trump attorney Lin Wood have no merit and could hurt Republicans' chances of holding the Senate majority.
They're just lying to people. And I really have a problem with somebody like Lin Wood, who hasn't voted in a Republican primary since 2004, telling Republicans don't vote for the Republican Senate candidates. It's maddening.
Crazy, right? It is amazing that, again, William Barr, the attorney general that took over for Jeff Sessions, the same man that had the Mueller report and took a 2,000-plus page report and summarized it down to a 2-paragraph summary, saying that after 2 years of investigation that it showed nothing about the president, when it showed multiple times that the president more than knew that about the Russian was meddling with the 2016 presidential election. Barr also sat there and not only stepped in on multiple occasions for the president, including a sexual harassment case in which now the attorney general is representing the president, which means that taxpayers are now paying for the president's defense. So again, I'm not surprised now that William Barr, as I like to call him, the president's personal attorney, has came back and said there is no evidence of voter fraud in the 2020 election. If anything, even Trump's former cybersecurity advisor sat there and said this was by far the most safest election in recent history. So again, they're pretty much saying all the things that Trump doesn't want to hear. So yes, he might actually fire William Barr because again, he wants people around him. He wants yes people, and Barr was a yes person for a little while. But now it's going to be interesting because, like I said before, Barr was only doing, and I said it, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, he was at the beck and call of Trump. But now that he's went against him, he might be on his way out. No tears lost. But again, the whole idea of, like I said before, Georgia is definitely going to be a hot spot now just because the simple fact of the matter is just, no problem, baby. Thank you for pointing this out. No problem. But again, this goes back to the whole situation, guys, like I said before, especially with Georgia. This is the reason why, you've already gave Trump his red notice. It's time to actually give Mitch McConnell his red notice, really. Because you know why? Because, like I said, Trump's actually going to be pushing a lot of regulations through that, again, Biden is going to be spending the next 3 years trying to reverse.
8 days left in office, and while he's been publicly keeping a lower profile and refusing to concede the election, behind the scenes, his administration is racing to solidify his legacy, fulfill campaign promises, and overhaul dozens of federal regulations that could take the Biden team years to undo. Our Devin Dwyer reports from Washington.
It's a sprint to the finish for a president hoping to leave a final mark. Even as he refuses to concede, Donald Trump is reshaping policies and disrupting government norms to the very end.
I think that there will be a lot of things happening between now and the 20th of January. A lot of things.
From immigration to environmental protections, Trump is pushing 11th-hour rule changes that could last for years.
We call them midnight regulations. It's the last chance to put these rules on the books before the Trump administration changes to the Biden administration. They can be reversed, but not easily.
Nonprofit news site ProPublica tracking 36 major pending regulations, with even more expected before Trump leaves office in January.
The Obama administration actually, depending on how you measure, had a little bit more than in the past, and so we might see that again.
They include religious exemptions for federal contractors, looser efficiency standards for shower heads and washing machines, and stricter eligibility for food stamps, even as millions out of work in the pandemic look to the government for help.
I think the final days of an administration are obviously hugely important, and it's just natural to want to get things done.
Carol Browner ran the EPA during all 8 years of the Clinton administration and was a member of President Obama's transition and first climate czar.
There were some things that we did want to finish up. But you're not free to just do it willy-nilly. There's the law, there's the science, there's the process. A lot of his midnight regulations are focused on the environment.
This EPA effort to ban the reliance on any scientific study that doesn't fully disclose all the raw data, right? Why is that so problematic?
We will simply not get the quality of science that EPA needs to make decisions. And this is a very, very intentional move on their part, on behalf of polluters, which is to limit the science and therefore limit the ability of EPA to make the smartest decision.
Browner says a rush to auction off drilling rights in the Arctic, strongly opposed by President-elect Biden, is especially high stakes.
The degree to which the leases have been entered into, you might have to buy them back. But hopefully the reality is we can continue to protect these areas that have been protected for hundreds of years now.
Raise your right hand.
And there are new moves on immigration. In his final weeks, Trump adding 8 new questions to the citizenship test and trying to make it harder for high-skilled foreign workers to get visas.
In this last-minute rush before the inauguration, Trump administration is doing everything they can to bring legal immigration closer and closer to the bare minimum, ramping up enforcement actions, and really trying to do everything they can to kind of like finish checking those boxes and make it as hard as possible for the Biden administration to rebuild the nation's immigration system.
The president also racing to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan, and last month formally ending the Open Skies Treaty, and a move critics called a gift to Putin. It had allowed U.S. and Russia to conduct mutual surveillance flights to build trust.
Russia didn't adhere to the treaty, so until they adhere, we will pull out.
Some of Trump's actions will have permanent impact, like the rush to perform more federal executions before President Biden has the chance to put them on hold. 8 federal inmates executed so far this year, the most in more than a century, with 5 more slated before Inauguration Day.
The pace of these federal executions has no historical precedent. The last time you had more than 10 people executed by the federal government in a single year, you have to go back to Grover Cleveland's second presidency in 1890.
The president also giving executioners greater flexibility in how they kill.
The regulation will allow them without challenge to use whatever method of lethal injection that it wants to use.
Meanwhile, the president is continuing a record number of lifetime appointments to federal courts, breaking with 123 years of precedent by confirming more judges after losing re-election.
Generally, once an election occurs, confirmations stop until the next Congress begins. It's hard to know the impact right now exactly that these Trump-appointed judges will have, but we know it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. It's going to be generational.
Some of Trump's final acts face challenges in court. And if Democrats win control of Congress, there could be fast-track repeals. But experts say many changes won't be easily undone.
You have to go through the whole rulemaking process all over again, which takes multiple years and a lot of resources and is, cumbersome by design.
A reminder, the power of the presidency can make a lasting impact on America up to the very last minute of a White House transition. For ABC News Live.
Yeah, when you really think about it, Trump may actually turn around and push a lot of these so-called midnight regulations through in order to actually, make it difficult. Because that's the whole key point of the whole thing of why he's pushing all these regulations through. It's just that he wants to make it difficult. And if you make it difficult, then again, like I said before, unfortunately, Biden is going to be spending the next 3 of his 4 years in his first term basically undoing everything that Dorito has done. So our last story before we get to our feel-good news segment, and again, guys, I thank you so much for putting up with me. I tell you, this cough, it's going, but it's whoo. And I tell you the truth, this cough is going, but it's going away Die Hard style. But anyway, thanks for watching me this far. I really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, getting to Obama. Obama has said he said some interesting stuff this week. He actually sat there and said, regarding defunding the police, he sat there and said that as far as you lost a big audience the minute you say it. Now, of course, defund the police is actually a part of the slogan for Black Lives Matter and every other place, because the police themselves are militarized. They have a lot of, they're more militarized because they have army-style weapons and gear, things of that nature. They do have quantified immunity. They do have a lot of things going for them. At the same time, they are very rarely brought to justice. And like I said before about good police and bad police, it's hard to say you have good police because you'll fire the good police, or you'll have them retire. But the bad police, you'll just simply put somewhere else in a different state where nobody knows them, and they're continuing working. So, of course, the simple fact of the matter was, defund the police did actually make it, because the fact that not defunding the police means that they didn't want the police to be broke. They wanted them to be retrained, to actually have screenings for mental evaluations, things of that nature. You know, all the things that the police officers don't want to do, which is interesting as a get out, because they serve and protect the community. But President Obama sat there and said that the slogan itself was a little bit on the nose, because you lost a big audience the minute you say it. Here's my thing, and I said this before about President Obama. I love the man. Probably one of the best presidents we've ever had in recent history. Mainly put because his entire 8 years, he's had a House of Representatives and a Senate House that were against him from Jump Street. It is amazing. The simple fact of the matter is, you got to remember, when President Obama was elected, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell sat there and said, on day one of this man making a historical moment as far as being the first black president, Mitch McConnell sat there and said, it is going to be our job from day one to obstruct anything this man tries to push through Congress. Think about that for a second. You are now the first black president, and the Senate Majority Leader has made a point that anything that you try to do is going to be blocked over and just not allowed. I mean, when you think about that uphill battle for 8 years, that says a lot. No president, I can't imagine any other president at any other time, any given time in history, had to face that much opposition. I'm just saying. So, a lot of respect for President Obama, but he's not above criticism. He's not. I think that he's coming from this from a bipartisan view. I think that he wants to include everybody on in this, which again would be the smart thing to do. It's because you're wanting to see this from all sides. You are, but there's only one side of this that only makes sense, because either you're siding with the people who are tired of seeing minorities killed by police violence, who are tired of seeing mistakes that should not happen that leads to deaths by the hands of police. The fact of the matter is that more police have had more suicides and murder suicides in the last 2 years than ever at any other point in history. And at the same time, we haven't even covered the surface on minority kills, which have increased in this year. So again, it's interesting where people say, well, you're gonna lose a lot of your audience based on that slogan. Well, no offense, Mr. President, but if the audience we lose don't agree with us that the police need to be reformed, retrained, and have more procedures and things of that nature, wouldn't that mean that that's the people we don't need, because they're the ones that think that everything is fine? I'm just saying. So again, like I said before, he is catching a lot of hell for that, because usually President Obama usually agrees with the people. But understand, I'm not mad about what he said. I mean, like I said before, he's coming at it. President Obama is coming at it from a bipartisan view, and if he comes at it from a bipartisan view, you have to take that into consideration. I just say that those people that do disagree with defund the police are usually the ones that are secretly in Parlor talking about Blue Lives Matter. You think I'm kidding? Go to Parlor. I'm just saying, if you've never been to Parlor, go to Parlor. You can trust me. You can sign up on it. It's interesting. That's about the way I could put that. But But actually, that brings us to our feel good news segment, guys. And like I said, like here on How the Frack We Got Here, we do take a lot of things about the news. Some of the news can be good, some of it can be bad, sometimes it can be downright depressing. But it's the weekend, and like I said, on the weekend, we always try to make it bright. We always try to make it, uplifting and positive, and try to send you out on a good note is what we try to do. And hopefully these 3 stories that I found will definitely do that, especially this one about grandma graduating with her granddaughter from college.
Granddaughter wanted her grandmother to, get out of the house. So she convinced her Nana to enroll in college. For the next 3 years, the two chased their degrees, and just last month, they graduated together from the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Caitlin O'Kane has their story.
Many graduation ceremonies look different in the time of COVID. But for Melody Ormond, it looked different because of the classmate who graduated alongside of her, her grandmother. Pat Ormond was retired and bored. Her granddaughter suggested a knitting club, but Pat shot that down. Then Melody had an idea.
She's always loved learning. I just thought, come to college with me.
Pat had enrolled in college before. She never thought she'd go back. Then 42 years later, her granddaughter stepped in.
Part of how I convinced her was I told her that as the matriarch, she had the responsibility to stay inspiring to all of us other women in the family.
That was enough to convince the grandmother. Both she and Melody started at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga together. Melody was a psychology major, Pat anthropology, so they didn't see each other much on campus. But Pat made friends of her own, both young and old.
Anywhere from freshmen coming right out of high school and asking me, why are you going to school? To the older students that were auditing.
Pat tried to instill some wisdom in her young classmates.
And of course, I tried to emphasize to them, you have a chance to get an education right now. Don't blow it.
Last month, the two walked across the graduation stage. Melody at 22, Pat at 75.
I always knew that I would go to college. I always hoped I'd graduate. But I never expected Nana to be there with me.
It was terrific and in some ways unreal.
At graduation and in life, this grandmother and granddaughter are side by side.
She gave me the push when I needed it.
Caitlin O'Kane for
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like I said, it's like I said, you're never too old to go learn. Even when I was at MTSU, there were a couple of 70. Well, there's one guy, Mr. Harold. He was actually in one of my classes. Funniest old guy, hands down. Always brought alcohol to school. He sat there in his mug. His mug smelled straight like Jack, but we weren't gonna say shh. Funny dude though. But again, grandma's got a point. Hey, if you can graduate your granddaughter, cool. Nothing wrong with being a college graduate. Like I said, never too late. Now, the next story that I got, guys, is going to start off really bad. So, you're probably going to be wondering what happened to the Feel Good News segment of this. Trust me, it gets better. So this one guy, Mr. Kennedy of Little Rock, Arkansas, was putting up a statue of a black Santa Claus because he wanted to show his 4-year-old daughter that Santa Claus was black. So he actually got a letter from his neighbor that read this. The letter that it was read was, please remove your Negro Santa Claus yard decoration. You should not try to deceive children into believing that I am a Negro. I am a Caucasian white man to you and have been for the past 600 years. Your being jealous of my race is no excuse for your dishonesty. Besides that, you are making yourself the laughingstock of the neighborhood. Obviously, your values are not that of the Lakewood area, and maybe you should move to a neighborhood out east with the rest of your racist kind. Yours truly, Santa Claus. Wow. The balls on that person. I know. You wonder where the feel-good story part is. I know. Just work with me. So this has been put up for 3 years. The guy said he's been putting this up for 3 years. Nothing has happened until this time. But the rest of the neighborhood decided to step in and be supportive because the executive director of the Properties Owner Association was pissed off about it. And his neighbors have been coming out saying, some of them have been bringing over, food. Some of them bringing a sign that says "Love your neighbors." They've been getting gifts of Black Santa yard flags and a Merry Christmas flag with a Black Santa on it. So the neighbors around the community have actually stepped up and supported this guy to actually put that out there, which I thought was crazy, which I thought was great, because again, this just goes to show you that the simple fact of the matter is, first and foremost, whoever was that guy that decided to turn around and send that letter, which I guarantee was probably a racist son of a bitch. First off, Santa is black. You want to know why? How else does one guy get to all these houses in one night accurately and nobody gives him credit? Sounds like a black man to me. So with that being said, like I said, I love that story. And yes, if you still I need to stop. Santa is black. Nothing wrong with that. There's not a white person out there. It's always funny that those very hardcore so-called Christians will always be Santa's white. We'll always forget the fact that Christmas is also based on a pagan worship. Don't tell them that. But tell them that and have fun with it. But anyway, last story I got, guys. I actually reported about this kid a little bit earlier this year. But this young man is amazing, and I just have to give him credit as the last story we got.
Next guest. Last year we met this incredible young man on GMA, and we were able to help him get on his feet with a donation to his charity. Well, guess what? Now, this 9-year-old is back demonstrating his inspiring goals and his big heart by helping veterans in need.
And check this out. He has raised over $100,000 to help thousands of homeless veterans with his initiative, Hero Bags and Boxes. And here to tell us about how he's giving back there he is, super kid, super dresser, Tyler Stallings. Welcome, Tyler. It is really good to see you. 9 years old, you've kind of had this idea and this passion since you were 4, we're told. Why is this such a passion of yours to help vets?
Well, it was mainly my mom who helped me get started. And how it all started was basically one day my mom decided to show me a video of veterans, and I saw them on the street. I said, this is not fair. They're supposed to be my heroes. And so from there, I said I wanted to build houses, and we couldn't do that because of financial problems. So we ended up getting the idea of hero bags. And then when we started it, our first place we went was Patriot House and the Armed Forces Retirement Home. And I'm pretty much an ambassador.
Wow. You're definitely the ambassador, Tyler. So tell us about hero bags, hero boxes. What are they? What's inside of them? And I know this year they look a little different than they have in previous years.
Yes, that is true. So basically what the hero bags and boxes are things that get passed around to the staff and veterans. And besides the normal things we put in there, like clothing, food, food cards, and the food is packaged food. We don't do like home cooked food. Besides things like that, and hygiene items, sorry, I forgot to include that. We also, now, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, we've been including more hand sanitizer. We've been including masks, gloves. We give to the shelters like thermometers. Yeah, that's basically what we've been putting in because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Tyler, I want you to give some of our view. You know, everyone knows, we've all been going through, the country's been going through, the world, really a tough time in 2020. Folks are looking for some kind of way to help out. Maybe they can't necessarily financially, but everybody's looking for a way, and they're going to see this 9-year-old kid who's going to inspire them. But give them some words of advice or inspiration for how it's okay, everybody can help somebody out right now.
So even if you just decide to get a card and sit down with your family and say, hey, I think it's a good idea to write a card to a deployed soldier or something and send it off to the soldier's family or the soldier. And, you could even do anything to help people down to even baking your neighbor a cake. It's anything. Also, for those who want to support, we can use masks, hand sanitizer, anything COVID-19 preventing it related. And also, we are in great need of volunteers because it's basically only my mom and some of my family who are available sometimes. My website's www.kidtimeenterprises.com, and also we have Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Those are also Kid Time Enterprises.
Oh, well, I hope people listen and they want to help out. And I know that your mom's there with you today, and she's a big part of this. And I know if you can just tell her how much we want to thank her as well for all that she is doing and all that you are doing to help veterans during this time of need. So, Tyler, thank you for being you and for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And I would just like to say to my mom, thank you so much for all your support and love throughout my project. And also for just helping. I mean, she's done everything from driving me around to the stores, she's been there from day one to the exact day. She's the reason why I'm sitting here right now.
Oh, that is so sweet, Tyler. Thank you for that. We needed that today. We really appreciate you and your mom.
Thank you very much.
Mom is going to take that clip and hold on to that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I said it best. You light a fire into a child, and the village will never not need.
Now with our play of the day.
I know I sat there and said that was it. There's actually one more, and I'm glad I saw this at the bottom because I still think this is like the greatest reaction I've ever seen to a son was what his dad says. When his dad had some good when the son had some good news to his dad, I thought that was pretty cool too. But again, before I hop into the last one, you gotta understand that kid was 9 years old and already has such a profound view of helping people. That is wow. 9 years old. The kid's got it right.
Need this story. This is going to make you feel good. One proud papa. Take a look.
He made the middle school basketball team, man.
He is happy. Dad Shaka Coverson is ecstatic to hear about his 12-year-old son's accomplishment. Mom, Dr. Monica Coverson, with the steady hand, laughing all the way as she chased the two up the stairs outside of Nashville, Tennessee. The celebrating continuing into their son Caden's room. Look at that.
I'm surprised Mom was able to keep up with the phone there. Dad was on a full sprint down the hall.
That tracking shot was like the scene in Goodfellas. Going through the restaurant. I mean, that was amazing. So happy for that family and great camera work by Mom.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's a good moment. I mean, when your son is actually able to share stuff with you, like making the basketball team, shoot, I'd be running full steam down the hall, wanting to hug on him too. Well, maybe one day. That'll be me. But anyway, thank you guys. That actually is going to be doing it for us. So I do thank everybody that was watching, liking, sharing, and poking their head in and commenting. I certainly do appreciate that. Before I do get out of here, I do have some shameless plugging to do. I'll start with my buddy Vaughn, Big BZA Dot, who was sticking his head in here earlier. I appreciate that. But he actually has several podcasts of his own. How do you find them? I'm glad you asked. So under Facebook, if you actually go look for Vaughn at Big BZA Dot, if you're a friend, cool. If not, go ahead and reach out to him. He's friendly. But when you get to be his friend, definitely go to his videos. And then under A's videos, you'll actually be able to see his shows. I'll start with the first one, the VST Intercast. What is the VST? It is basically a news podcast, somewhere in a mind. That basically means that he is, as Vaughn would say, he is a big-ass kid, and so am I. Which means that, we do handle our business and make sure responsibilities and things are met, bills are paid, rent's covered. But we do like the simpler things in life. We do like like video games. We do like music. We like movies. And that's what Vaughn tries to cover mostly in his VSTs. Video games, movies, trailers. I call him the king of weird trailers because he always seems to find the most interesting trailers out there. Trust me, he's undefeated in this. But anyway, an interactive show just like mine. As you can see on this one, I definitely did comment on there because, trust me, he's picked the trailer on that one that was just interesting. Aside from that, he also has a podcast called Random as Fuck. What is Random as Fuck? It's a pool of ratchets sometimes dip our toes into to take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some bills make you think, some bills make you cry. Always to a theme. This is still pretty much my favorite because this one is the Fuck Donald Trump theme because it used to be #1 on iTunes. I think Megan Thee Stallion finally took that over now. But it's basically a bunch of videos that are designed to make you laugh. Kind of like Trump supporters sitting outside the election office praying for them to stop counting the votes. Yes, that really did happen. But it's also an interactive show as well, so you can definitely comment from there. He also has another show called Rhythmness, the Rhythmness Music Podcast, in which you reminisce over the rhythm, in which him and others like myself go over albums and actually just tells if we like it or if we don't, or if it's crap, or you probably should stay at DeVry. But what we try to do is actually just give an honest opinion. Vaughn is not a musical connoisseur. I'm not a musical critic. But differences in taste do lead to great conversations, and that's what the Rhythmness Music Podcast is all about. He also has another show I call it a pop-up musical genius show called Fonkin' Around. What is Fonkin' Around? If you have never heard this. Now that is basically Vaughn's, as far as Vaughn's setup, as you can see from the mess. And he's trying to sing. And well, I mean, he's a better singer than me, I'm not gonna lie. But as you can see, Vaughn is a musical production guy. I like to call him Kanye without being crazy because he is very talented. And as you can see, he loves to show his whole progression from creating a beat to the end of it because he might be jumping right back into the fold. I'm hoping he does. But as you can tell, he is a guy that likes to make musical beats. He is a guy that likes to sway back and forth. He is a guy that likes to sing Barry White. He can do it all. But he is very talented, and Fonkin' Around definitely does show him at his musical genius. So, all of his shows can be found on his Facebook page at abigbza. Definitely go to A's videos and be able to see all his videos from there. And also check him out on Facebook, abigbza, or bigbza across social medias to see exactly when he'll actually be doing his next podcast. I believe he will be starting back up again very soon. Aside from that, guys, like I said, I have to thank you guys so much for putting up with me today. Like I said, I am recovering because I may have given myself a cold or a cough, and it has. And let me tell you something. From Sunday up until now, I actually started feeling a lot better on Friday. Because I know from Monday to Thursday, I have to thank a lot of people. First off, thank my girlfriend who actually checked in on me, and also was making sure that I had what I needed. So thank you, Kelly, for that. I really appreciate you, honey. And also, some fact of the matter, guys, like I said, thank you for putting up with this. Like I said, it's not my 100%, but I felt like we still, the show doesn't stop for anything, so we still have to go moving forward with it. And like I said, as long as I have some hot tea, I'll be fine. And trust me, I have a whole new appreciation for hot tea, especially when you got a cough. When you got a cough, and I did not know that hot peach tea. I mean, I knew hot toddies, but I haven't had a drop of alcohol since March. And I have to wait until March of next year because I'm trying to use this as a way to drop weight. But let me tell y'all something. Peach tea? Hot peach tea? Whoo! I thought all tea was bland. I have been opened up to an avenue of tea. I'm not going to be a tea snob, but I'm just saying. I can sip peach tea all day. Just need some Jack. Aside from that, guys, like I said before, I'm getting sidetracked. It just feels so good to actually talk and not worry about coughing every 5 seconds. You guys have no idea. If you've had a coughing fit like I've had for a couple of days, trust me, it feels good that I can talk this long right now and not cough. I cannot tell you how freaking thankful I am about that. Anyway, I am not an source of course. I talk about Vaughn. I am the source. I have a few shows of my own. I'll start with the first one. Every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. is the Burned Out Podcast. It is my IT storytelling podcast. It will resume this Tuesday with some new stories because I do tell stories from my IT background. They're always meant to be funny and entertaining, and if you find it funny, then great. If not, then you need to lighten up because I'm probably talking about you. Of course, every Saturday, as you see now, from 10 a.m. to noon, will be the How the Frack We Got Here podcast. And yes, tonight between 8 to 10 p.m. will be the Off Limits podcast. We will be back again with a new subject. And of course, tomorrow, being on Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m., will be the Get Bit podcast. Of course, the Off Limits podcast, I should explain that. It is the podcast that definitely does go there. We do talk about subjects that nobody wants to talk about. Mainly put because we're trying to be progressive, and we don't. And the only way we can be progressive and move forward is we have to go to those places that nobody likes to go to. Of course, we Get Bit every Sunday. That is my Blurred podcast. We cover video games and movies, superhero movies and trailers, video game. I'm sorry, I just said video games. Anime, comics, things of that nature. There is a lot of new news out there, especially with HBO Max. And Warner Brothers right now getting a lot of the movies, and it might actually, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a tombstone to movie theaters, but it puts them one foot in the grave at least. But we will cover all that on Sunday instead of 9 p.m. Now, all of my shows can be found on my Facebook page at William Buchanan, or the shows have their own Facebook and YouTube pages. So with their own Facebook or YouTube, you can look them up by their names. You can look them up by The Burned Out Podcast, How the Frack We Got Here, The Off Limits Podcast, and Get Bit. That is GITBIT to see every podcast on YouTube or Facebook that I've done thus far. Before I do get out of here, guys, like I said, COVID-19 is real. I know we've been saying that for multiple months, but it's real. 276 deaths are in. 100,000 ICU hospitalizations. And you people are still trying to travel for New Year's. If the CD, I think, just look, I understand that we want to be together. We all want to be together with family and friends. I get it. This is true. But it comes to a point to where we actually have to start thinking. We actually have to start, thinking of others. So above all else, wear a mask, do social distancing. If you're sick, please stay at home. If you are feeling worse, or definitely feeling like, you're needing medical attention, please go to a hospital. But above all else, guys, let's be smart. The only way we're going to stop this is wearing a mask does a lot. Staying away from large gatherings does a lot. But we have to be willing to do it. That's the big difference. Aside from that, guys, like I said, if you see a doctor, nurse's aide, doctor's aide, environmental people that work in the hospitals, please say thank you. They are not given enough credit for what they do. Also, if you see an essential worker, say thank you and be nice. I know it's a little hard to do in this day and age, but these are people that don't have the same luxuries as most of us do, which is the ability to work from home. Some people do have to go into work and actually still have to keep the lights on for the rest of us. So I'm talking about those, of course, in the fast food, also in the retail, also truck stop drivers, also gasoline and grocery stores attendants, also those that work in warehouses like Amazon, and those that work in logistics like the United States Postal Service, FedEx, UPS, and DHL. Again, be nice and say thank you. That's all that needs to be done. Aside from that, guys, like I said about How the Frack We Got Here, we are simply just trying to inform. We are not trying to persuade you. We are not trying to change you or, make you come away to our way of thinking. We're not trying to hammer out things. We are simply presenting the facts to you as they come and allow you to make up your own mind. Because informed people can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one got us Trump, but an informed one got us Biden, and hopefully we'll have to reverse a lot of things that Trump has done. But that's how the Frack We Got Here. I've been your host, guys. I do again thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with me. Hopefully I will sound better in the next coming days. But like I said, this peach tea is amazing. Aside from that, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please stay safe and think of others, and just simply be nice. Peace.